Hello cavemen. Tonight we will continue with the story of a woman whose entire world is shadows, bone and breath. You are born in the bitter cradle of the Ice Age, not to a name, not to comfort, but to damp stone, the press of fur against your newborn skin, and the sound of nothing, because no one is celebrating. Your mother doesn't cry, not from joy, not from pain, she simply exhales, like prey that knows it survived one more hour. The cave smells like smoke, mold, and birth. You can't see it now, but outside is a world clawing through wind and frost, trees hunched in defeat, mammoths trudging across vast plains of hunger, wolves curling inside themselves to keep the cold from winning. It is 20,000 BC, and you are very small, very soft, very breakable. You probably won't survive this, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the clan, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're born under animal skins, stitched with bone needles. The first thing that touches your face is not a warm towel, but the back of a calloused hand, checking if you are, in fact, breathing. If you cry too loud, you risk inviting death. So you learn early, hush is safety. In the womb, your body knew rhythm. Now it knows cold. A woman, maybe your mother, maybe just the one assigned, places you near the fire, not close enough to burn, but close enough that your skin won't crack open from the chill. The flames flicker on the cave walls, casting long shadows that look a lot like monsters. You don't know the word monster yet, but you will. Outside, wind howls. Inside, people sleep in loose clumps, not families. There is no word for family, just clan. If they feed you, you're theirs. If you stop crying, you're tolerated. You grow fast, too fast. Childhood doesn't last long when everything around you wants to kill you. At first your world is firelight and the smell of ash-soaked fur. Then it expands to include the walls, charcoal marks from older times, hands like ghosts pressed into stone. Someone tells you those were left by spirits. Later, you'll learn they were left by someone just like you, afraid they'd be forgotten. You begin to crawl. The ground is packed with dust, stone chips and scraps of last week's hunt. You taste bone. It crunches like cold roots. No toys here, just what you can find without being smacked for it. Your mother, if she's still alive, teaches you by example. Keep your eyes low, your steps soft, and your thoughts inside your skull. She doesn't speak much, not because she doesn't want to, but because the men around her take silence as obedience, and survival depends on being thought obedient. There's a man who might be your father, or uncle, or none of the above. He has a heavy hand and heavier breath. You avoid him, like everyone else does. He's important. He brings meat. He also brings bruises. No one says anything about that either. You watch him carve a tool one day, a flint scraper. The way his hands move, confident, quick, like he's done this 100 times. Because he has. He doesn't notice you watching. Or maybe he does, and just doesn't care. One morning, someone dies. It's not dramatic. No one wails. They just carry the body out into the snow and return without speaking. Later, you see a hawk picking at something near the edge of the rocks. You know better than to ask questions. Historians still argue whether Ice Age clans practiced any sort of ritual around death. Some think they whispered farewells or offered bones. Others say there was no time for that. Survival is a full-time job. You begin to understand the cave's language. Cracks in the stone mean dripping water. A certain echo means someone's coming. A sudden silence means danger. You learn that the fire is never yours. It belongs to whoever built it. And if you want to sit by it, you'd better offer something. A scrap of bark, a story, or silence. Speaking of stories, one of the older women tells them at night. Her face is lined like tree bark, her voice thin as wind. She tells you about when the sun hid for 10 days and only returned because the clan threw red berries into the fire. You nod. You believe her. Truth and myth are the same here. Both are survival instructions with extra flavor. You're about 5 when you see your first mammoth. It moves like a god, wrapped in muscle and patience. Its tusks scrape the sky. You freeze, instinct, not fear. Then someone grabs your shoulder and pulls you back. You almost ran toward it, you fool. Later, someone gives you a chunk of mammoth meat. It tastes like smoke and effort. It sticks in your teeth. That night, you dream of fur and snow, and something watching you through the trees. There are no mirrors in your world. You don't know what you look like. You only know how others react to your face. That tells you everything you need to know. One day, a stranger arrives. Not a true outsider, just someone from another clan. He speaks a dialect your ears find clumsy. He trades a fish for flint, leaves behind a smell you can't name. A few days later, he's gone. No one explains where. You learn this is normal. Quirky fact. Some cave groups used crushed beetles to make red paint. That same red may have been smeared on newborns to protect them from spirits, or just to mark them as alive. Maybe both. You get sick for the first time around your 7th winter. Fever hits like a predator. You hallucinate. You hear the cave speak your name. Then you wake up 3 days later, weak and shivering, and someone has taken your blanket. That's how love works here. Not through affection, but through attention. If someone checks if you're breathing, they care. If they feed you while you're sick, they love you. Probably. Your fingers grow calloused from scraping hides. Your back aches from sitting too long in the wrong positions. But you don't complain. Complaining is for people with options. And you don't have options. Not yet. You're 10 now, maybe 11. No one's counting. Time is marked by the return of the geese, the first frost, the way your knees ache before storms. Childhood, what little there was, is now over. You've begun to carry things, heavy things, wood, meat, siblings. You no longer sit near the fire unless you've earned it. Your breasts haven't formed, but your value is already changing. The older men look at you with the same disinterest they reserve for untested spears. The women, though, are watching, judging whether you'll endure, whether you'll join their circle, where pain and silence are the only membership fees. Food doesn't come from shelves, it comes from blood. You've seen the hunts, heard the hoarse yells, the frantic scattering of hooves, the bone-splitting thuds. Once you were allowed to help carry the leg of a boar. It slipped from your arms, splashing blood across your chest. Everyone laughed. You didn't. Sometimes you're taken along to forage. Mushrooms, roots, bitter greens that numb the tongue. You learn which plants stain your fingers and which stain your dreams. There's a vine that twists around your ankle when you pull it. An old woman says it's sacred. Another says it's cursed. You stop pulling. You chew marrow, suck it from split bone, like it owes you something. Sometimes you gag, sometimes you crave it. Protein is survival, and your stomach doesn't care about texture anymore. One day, they bring back mammoth again, a calf. Easier to kill, harder to justify. The meat is softer, less worked by age. You can taste the difference, but no one talks about it. Meat is meat. Guilt is not a luxury you can afford. And the cold. Oh, the cold is constant. It wraps around you like another skin. Your nose is always pink, your fingers cracked, your bones like icicles from the inside out. You sleep curled into others, trying to ignore the smell of unwashed bodies and old fear. You learn to respect the mammoth. Its death feeds dozens. Its hide becomes shelter. Its bones become tools. Its spirit, if you believe in that sort of thing, lingers in the air, making the fire flicker strangely at night. Historians still argue whether early humans saw mammoths as gods, prey, or both. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, or nowhere at all. You craft your first real tool, a flint scraper. It's clumsy, but yours. The others don't praise you. They don't even notice. That's the way it is. Praise is rare. Silence means you didn't fail. Your fingers are strong now, scarred in ways that don't hurt unless it rains. You don't feel like a child anymore, and you don't look like one either. You've grown into your eyes, your jaw, your fear. Let's talk about danger, because it's everywhere. A wrong step on wet rock, a snake hidden beneath dry leaves, a man in a bad mood. You learn to see risk in every shadow. That's not paranoia, that's wisdom. The boys train with spears. You don't, but you watch. You memorize the way they shift their weight before throwing, the way they yell to summon courage, or maybe just to feel big. You don't yell, you stay quiet, quieter than them, quieter than wind over snow, and you begin to help with skinning. You hold down carcasses, while blades peel away what's no longer needed. You watch steam rise from fresh cuts. The smell is sharp, but not unpleasant. Blood smells like work. A quirky fact for tonight. In some Ice Age camps, people may have used animal fat mixed with ochre as a kind of sunscreen. Yes, you greasy with bear lard, red as sunset, shielded from the brutal sun that still burns, even in the cold. You wear your war paint like protection and performance. There's a child born to another woman in your camp. He looks like her, but paler, sickly, doesn't cry much. You notice the way she touches him, gentle, desperate. You wonder if she knows he won't last the winter. You hope she doesn't. That kind of knowing makes every breath heavier. You begin to wonder what death feels like when it comes quietly. Not in the hunt, not in blood, but in a slow curling away from warmth. You've seen the bodies, lips blue, eyes open, like they're still trying to see the sky one more time. You try to imagine a world without fear, a world with bread and warmth and water that doesn't smell like old fur. But your imagination is limited by what you've touched, tasted, survived. Hope is a dangerous luxury. Sometimes, though, the moonlight falls just right, and you see your breath mingling with the stars. For a moment it feels like the sky is listening. You say nothing, but it hears you anyway. You sleep on skins that smell of old hunts and damp ash. You curl up with your back to the wall. Always the wall, never the open side. You don't know why, but it makes you feel less available. And there are games, yes, even here. The children play with bones, tossing them like dice. They carve faces into stones and pretend they're people. One calls his stone Mother. You don't ask why, you just nod. But you don't really play anymore. You observe, you calculate. You're becoming what the others already see. A girl turning into a woman, ready to be handed over like an object carved from bone. You're not ready, but no one asks. You wake one morning and something's different. The others don't notice it yet, but you do. Your stomach feels strange, your body heavy in ways that aren't quite illness. When you squat behind the rocks to relieve yourself, there's blood, not a wound. This is slower, rhythmic. You touch it and smell copper and soil. Your heart skips. You wipe the blood onto a nearby leaf and bury it beneath a flat stone. Instinct, shame, fear, you're not sure. Later, an older woman, gay maybe, or whatever they call her, sees the stiffness in your walk and pulls you aside without a word. She checks your face, your fingernails, then she nods once, sharply, and hands you a lump of dried moss wrapped in thin bark. You don't ask, you just nod and tuck it into your pouch. That moss becomes your secret friend for weeks. Your moontime has begun. The women nod at you a little differently now. The men stop looking through you and begin to look at you, not always kindly, not always safely. No one explains the rules, but they begin to change. You're asked to fetch water farther away, wash hides on your own, prepare more of the meat. You are proving something, that you can bear the weight now, that you're not a child. Historians still argue whether these rites were marked with ceremony or silence. You get the silence, a few extra glances, a single broken-tooth smile from the woman who used to ignore you. That's your ritual. And your body? It rebels. Your belly cramps. Your spine aches. Sometimes you double over from the pain. You try not to let it show. Pain is weakness, and weakness is an invitation. You bleed for days. The moss helps, but it's never clean. You hide the stained bark under rocks. The smell clings to you. You catch the eye of the clan's dogs. They growl softly. You learn to carry fire near your bedding from now on. Here's a quirky tidbit. In some theories, women during this time may have gathered in separate spaces during menstruation. Moon huts, some call them, not out of shame, but power. Bleeding was sacred. You wonder if your cave ever had one. You wonder what happened to it. The men joke sometimes, but not loudly. Don't anger her, they say. Her belly sings with the moon. You force a smile. It's better than being called useless. You find yourself watching the sky more often, following the moon like a secret friend. It waxes, wanes, disappears. You wonder if it feels the way you do, full, then empty, then hidden. One morning, as you're crushing seeds between stones, a sharp pain stabs your lower back. You flinch and check. No blood, but the cramp lingers. You're not bleeding, and you're not well. A different kind of rhythm has begun. You try to count days, but numbers don't live here. You tie knots in a cord of sinew, one for each rising sun. After a few dozen, you lose track. What matters is that your belly isn't flat anymore. You tell no one, but one of the women knows. She notices the way you walk, the way your breath catches when you stand too fast. She says nothing, only places her hand once on your lower back and squeezes gently, then walks away. That was her way of saying, you're not alone. Your appetite shifts. Meat smells too strong. Roots make you gag. You want bark, charcoal. You chew it when no one watches. You begin to feel the stirrings inside you. At first, like gas. Then, like fluttering. Then, like someone gently knocking from the inside. It's terrifying and intimate. You speak to it in your mind. You say, wait. You say, please don't die. You remember the other women's bellies. Some grew full and round, some shrank again. No baby, no words, no mourning, just more wood to gather. You start sleeping curled around your middle, hands protectively over the slight swell. At night, you dream of claws and ice and tiny fingers. You dream of being hollow. You dream of being whole. There's a man, maybe the father, maybe not. He's older, strong. He smells like fire and blood. You don't want him near you, but he still is. Sometimes you wonder if he even remembers. Sometimes you wonder if it matters. The others know. They don't say it, but they know. You're not asked to lift heavy hides anymore. You're given extra marrow. You are useful now, in the way that only someone carrying new life can be. You hate that. You sit by the fire and stare into it too long. Once you think you hear the unborn child whispering back from the crackle. It might have been your own voice echoing, or the wind, or the ancestors. Historians still debate whether women of this time had roles beyond reproduction. Some suggest they were herbalists, storytellers, spiritual leaders. You cling to that. You hope your story won't just be one of womb and ash. One night, you wake in pain. Your legs cramp, your back spasms. You sweat despite the cold. It's too soon. You press your palms to the stone floor and breathe like you've heard the others do. Slow, deep, pretending not to be afraid. But it's a false alarm. The pain fades by dawn. The fire is low, and someone's placed a blanket over your shoulders. You don't know who. That makes you cry for the first time in weeks. The next day, you walk to the edge of the river alone. You whisper your thoughts into the wind. You say, I don't know if I want this. You say, I'll do it anyway. And that's what being a woman here means. You do it anyway. You wake to the smell of meat and wet fur. The fire has died down, and your back hurts more than usual. Your belly is heavier now, not just in weight, but in consequence. You've become a vessel, not for dreams, not for ambition. Those don't survive out here, but for life, and life demands a price. A quiet, grim joke in the camp goes, "Want warmth this winter? Trade your daughter." You've heard it, you've seen it happen. Young girls paired off to older men who bring more than just meat. They bring firewood, furs, and the illusion of safety. And now it's your turn. There's no ceremony, just a glance, a grunt, maybe a short discussion between men. Then you're expected to move your things, your pelts, your pouch of moss, your tools, closer to his, closer to the man who didn't ask. He's not cruel. That would be easier. He's indifferent, which cuts deeper. You are not chosen. You are claimed. You've become part of the barter system, like flint, salt, or a well-cooked liver. You share his space, his body heat, his habits. You learn how he sleeps, with one arm across his chest, like he's guarding something. You learn how he eats, tearing meat, as if the mammoth insulted him personally. The first night, he doesn't touch you. The second night, he does. Not roughly, not gently, just as if it's his right, like taking a second helping of food. You bite your lip until it bleeds. You don't cry. You learned long ago that crying is an invitation to more. You shift your body afterward, facing the wall. You feel something inside you change, not your womb, not your back, but something deeper. You're becoming less, or more. It's hard to tell. Historians still argue whether Ice Age pairings involved affection or coercion. Likely both, but you wouldn't call it love. You wouldn't call it anything. You rise before the others. You fetch water, grind seeds, clean skins. You make yourself useful. The man seems pleased, or at least not displeased. That's as good as it gets. The other women notice. One winks. Another hands you a fur with fewer lice. These are gifts of a sort. Welcome to the circle of the kept. You're not sure how far along you are. Time is slippery here. You know only that your body aches more each morning, and bending is a prayer answered with pain. The baby moves now, like fish darting beneath your ribs. Sometimes when you sit by the fire, you catch the gaze of one of the younger girls. She watches your belly with awe or dread. You remember being her. You want to tell her to run. But where? You try to carve something for the baby, a small figure, but your fingers tremble and the flint slips. You cut yourself, blood beads, bright and accusing. You suck the wound clean and keep carving. A quirky fact. In some early graves, tiny carved animals have been found beside the bones of infants. Toys, totems, no one knows. You wonder if your small figure will outlive you, if someone will find it, dust it off, and ask who you were. At night you dream of falling, not from cliffs, but into silence, a bottomless quiet where nothing hurts and no one asks. You wake sweating, the fur tangled around your legs. The man your man grunts when you move. He doesn't ask if you're okay. He never does. But once he hands you a strip of dried meat without looking. That might be love in his language. You miss your mother, or maybe you just miss the idea of being held without expectation. It's been so long, you don't know if she's dead, or simply further away than you'll ever walk again. The clan moves slowly. They're waiting for snow to melt, for rivers to thaw. You know that when the moment comes, you'll be expected to walk too, even with the weight inside you. One of the elders begins to cough, a deep rattling sound. People start avoiding her. She spits blood into the fire and stares into it like she sees something waiting. You wonder if she does. Death here isn't an event, it's a mood. It settles over the camp like fog. Everyone walks softer, speaks less. Even the dogs grow quiet. You lie beside the fire and place both hands on your stomach. You speak softly, words no one taught you. You tell the baby to hold on. You tell it stories about warmth, food, places that aren't caves. You lie, and that's okay. Historians say storytelling began in the Ice Age, around fires, in the dark, with children nestled against their mothers. It wasn't for entertainment, it was for survival. A story could carry a warning, a lesson, or a hope. You whisper your story like a spell. You trade furs with another woman. She gives you one that smells of cedar. You give her one that doesn't itch. These are your currencies now. Smell, warmth, quiet favors. You begin to feel heavy in your dreams too, as if the world presses down even there. But one night, you dream you're walking, alone fast, across ice fields, and the stars blink just for you. You wake with tears in your ears and something like peace in your chest. Then he returns, drunk on fermented berries. He stinks of smoke and arrogance. You turn away. He pulls you back. It's quick, mechanical. He breathes hard and rolls over. You stare at the ceiling. You count the cracks. You press your hand to your belly. Please, you think, don't remember this. Later, when you clean yourself with cold water, your hands don't shake. You're used to this now. That's the part that frightens you most. You can't see your toes anymore. When you sit, it takes effort to stand. When you sleep, it takes effort to breathe. You've become a hill of aching joints, stretched skin, and shallow breaths. The baby inside you moves like it's trying to escape. Sometimes it kicks so hard you wince and pretend you didn't. The women help more now, quietly. One leaves a small bundle of softened bark by your sleeping spot. Another shares dried berries without a word. These are the closest things to kindness you've known in months, and you collect them like treasure. One morning, your man says you're eating too much. He laughs when he says it, but not kindly. You smile, then take more food when he isn't looking. You're eating for two, after all, and he's only thinking for half a person. The pain is growing. It wraps your back like fire and pulls your hips apart, inch by inch. You say nothing. Pain is normal now, like breathing or walking or hiding. There's a moment, one quiet evening, where the wind outside the cave dies and the fire makes no sound. You feel the baby shift, settle low. A weight drops inside you, like a stone into a pond. You know it's coming, soon. The next morning, you bleed, not like before, not the slow moontime kind. This is different, thick, serious. It's the first alarm. You go to the old women, the ones who've done this too many times to count. They look at you, they nod, they make space by the warmest part of the fire. That's it, that's the ritual, the birth fire, just ash, fur, and memory. Historians still argue what kind of birthing support Paleolithic women had. Midwives, possibly, shared knowledge passed woman to woman, almost certainly. You are about to become part of that chain. They give you a stick, not to beat anyone with, though tempting, but to bite down on, to keep your screams from waking the forest gods, or the sleeping men. You squat, because lying down is weakness, and there's no one to hold you anyway. Your feet dig into the packed earth. You grip your thighs. You bite the stick. And then, pain. Pain like nothing you've ever known. Not sharp, not brief. Deep and rolling, like the sky falling in slow motion. You scream once, then choke on it. One of the women places her hand on your spine. That's all the comfort you get. The baby doesn't come quickly. It turns the world into a tunnel, and you're stuck at the center. You lose sense of time, fire, faces, everything blurs, until finally something shifts. There's a tearing inside you, real, terrifying, and then relief, wet, hot, screaming relief. They hold it up, a bundle of life, red, wrinkled, loud. You want to laugh and sob and sleep all at once. You don't get to. There's more. Blood still flows. They press your belly hard. You cry out. You're not done being broken yet. A quirky fact. Some Ice Age women may have used obsidian blades to cut umbilical cords. Sharp, precise, deadly. You hear a snip, and something loosens in your body. Your first thread of freedom cut with stone. They hand you the child. It's heavier than you expected. Warmer. Realer. It searches your face with eyes that don't know the world yet. You feel something shift in you. Not joy, exactly. Not yet. But something like it, buried under exhaustion and shock. You try to nurse. The baby fumbles. Your nipple cracks. You grit your teeth and try again. It latches. You exhale like someone who's been holding her breath for months. And then you bleed again. The older woman presses your belly. She doesn't look pleased. You feel the panic rise, but she shakes her head and mutters something. You don't understand the words, but the tone is grounding. Not yet. You're not dying. Not tonight. You sleep, eventually. Not because you want to, but because your body leaves you no choice. You curl around your child like a question mark. Every muscle aches. Your bones feel hollow. When you wake, your man is sitting nearby, watching. Not the baby. He's watching you, as if waiting to see what you've become. You don't meet his eyes. You look at the fire instead. It's safer. He says nothing, then stands and walks away. That's as much praise as you'll get. You check the baby. Still breathing. Still warm. Still real. You count its fingers, its toes. You whisper your name into its hair. You whisper something else too. Something only the two of you will ever know. Later you help gather wood. Yes, already. No time for rest. The clan doesn't pause for miracles. You tie the baby to your chest with a fur strip. It squirms. You smile for the first time in what feels like years. The sky is grey. The trees creak. A bird screams overhead. You wonder what it's like to fly away from this place, this role, this stone-bound fate. But you walk back to the cave anyway, because that's what mothers do here. They survive, over and over again. The smoke from the fire makes your eyes sting as you crouch again on the same fur that caught your blood. It's crusted now, black at the edges, and no one offers a clean one. Your thighs are sore, your breasts swollen. The baby stirs against your chest, gums blindly searching. It's dark outside. Not night, just the kind of gloom that settles when clouds press low and heavy. Inside, the air is stale, thick with breath, wet pelts, and meat that's gone just slightly wrong. You hum, soft, broken notes, not a song, just something to fill the space between your heartbeats. The baby quiets, finally latching. You wince. There's a crack so deep on your left side that it bleeds when the child nurses, but you let it happen. Pain has become so familiar, it no longer demands your attention. Sleep is rare. The baby wakes often, whimpering, twitching, gasping like the air is foreign. You bounce it lightly in your arms, staring into the fire as if it might answer all the questions you never got to ask. What if you do everything right and it still dies? You've seen it before. Blue lips, cold feet, a stillness that sets in before the light goes out. Babies are born every year, and every year some simply stop. You wrap the baby tighter, tuck it closer. You won't let this one go easily. During the day you keep moving. Everyone does. Stillness invites death. You stir ash, rub fat into hides, suck on pine needles to fight the thirst. You carry the baby tied to your back with a sling of sinew and cloth. Its weight drags on your shoulders. Its cries draw attention you don't want. The older children poke at it. Is it a boy? One asks. You don't know. You haven't checked. Haven't wanted to know. You nod anyway. Historians still argue how Paleolithic clans viewed gender in infants. Most believe survival came first. Identity came second, if it ever came at all. The other women Those who've given birth before watch you with tight faces. They know this stage, the dangerous middle, the window where the baby lives, but hasn't yet lived long enough to be grieved. There's a child in the cave, not yours. He's 3, maybe 4. You've seen him lick the inside of skulls for marrow. He runs on bent legs and howls like a wolf pup. Yesterday you watched him try to feed a dead mouse to the fire. No one stopped him. This world is not gentle. It never pretends to be. A quirky fact: in some burial sites, children were laid with beads, tools, even shells, trinkets, symbols. Proof that even in a place where death was routine, some losses were still honoured. Your man brings food now, more than before. Not for you, for the baby. He throws a chunk of meat beside your feet without comment. You tear it into strips and chew until your jaw aches, spitting pieces into your palm to soften them before placing them into your child's mouth. The first time it gags, then swallows. A win. The child grows heavier. You feel it in your back, in your wrists, in the aching of your knees. Some nights you dream you're still pregnant, and the baby is inside you again, safe and unseen. When you wake and see it beside you, breathing, part of you aches with fear, another part with wonder. The baby makes a sound one morning, something between a cough and a laugh. The cave seems to hold its breath. You look around, no one reacts, but you remember it. You hold it in your ribs, like a prayer. There's still blood, not the same kind. This is slow, lingering. You sit on moss pads, changed daily, trying not to think about infection. The old woman offers you a bundle of herbs to boil and wash with. You whisper thank you. It's the first word you've said out loud in days. That night, the fire smokes more than usual. You hear someone coughing, a dry, rattling sound. One of the elders, again, the baby shifts in your arms, bothered by the smell. You rock it gently, your eyes burning. Everything smells like death today. You think about leaving, just for a moment, walking out into the woods, and not stopping until the cold claims you, just to be quiet, just to be alone. But you don't. You never do. Instead, you wake early. Beat the others to the stream. You strip to the waist, icy water shocking your skin. The baby wails. You wash anyway. Blood, ash, milk. You scrub until your skin shines raw. You breathe through your teeth and pretend it feels good. You talk to the baby more now. Simple words, tones, shapes with your lips. It stares at you like you're a mystery that can't be solved. You smile. It doesn't understand, but someday maybe it will. Your body is changing again. The roundness is fading. Your stomach loosens. Your face grows sharper. You catch your reflection in a pool of still water, muddy, distorted, but there. You look like someone who survived something important, and maybe that's enough. The other children begin to play near you again. One offers you a carved stick figure, painted red, a mammoth maybe, or a person. You nod, accept it. This is their language, their way of saying, you're one of us again, but you know you're not the same. You walk past the birth fur one evening. It's been kicked aside, flattened. The stain remains. Someone's placed another pelt over it. You stare at it too long, until someone calls your name. You turn away. You don't answer. You never named the baby. There's no point. Names are a gamble. But in your head, when it cries, you whisper something soft. A word made of breath and hope. Something only you and the sky know. The wind howls again tonight, crawling through cracks in the cave like it's looking for someone to take. You pull your fur tighter around you, and the baby, who's still too young to know fear, though you have enough for both. Days blur. You don't track them anymore. Not by the sun, not by the blood, not by the baby's breath against your chest. You mark time by who disappears. First the old man with the yellow teeth, then the quiet woman who used to hum while grinding seeds. Gone, just like that. No farewell, no pile of stones, just absence. You've started teaching the baby things, little things, not words, it's too early, but rhythms. When to be quiet, how to breathe in sync with yours when men argue, when to sleep even when you're surrounded by noise. You don't know what kind of life you're preparing it for. You just know that staying alive is a skill you have to pass on. The toddlers in the cave aren't innocent. They don't get to be. You've seen one snap a bird's neck with his bare hands. Another smeared charcoal on the cave wall, drawing a bear with claws longer than truth. You think it's beautiful. Someone slapped him for wasting charcoal. Stone toys appear, simple carvings, dull-edged blades for practice, a leather strip tied to a bone that acts as a pretend sling. These are not gifts, they are training. Play is always preparation for pain. One day, you hear the baby cry with a tone you don't recognize. It's not hunger, not discomfort, it's fear. You spin, and there's a boy older, standing too close. He's holding a rock, not raised, not thrown, but present. You take the baby into your arms, wrap it up, and hold it so tight you can't tell whose heart is beating faster. You glare at the boy, he walks away, you say nothing, but now you sleep with a sharpened bone beside your bedding. Historians still debate how much discipline Ice Age children received. Evidence of cranial injuries on young remains suggests that not all childhoods were gentle. You don't need a study to know that already. Your man returns one night drunk on fermented roots. Again, he kicks at the dog sleeping by the fire and grumbles about food. When he sees the baby crying, he curses. You're ready. You take the child and walk to the far corner of the cave. No one stops you. No one helps either. You sleep curled around the baby like a shield. Your bones ache from holding so tightly. Your dreams are shallow, sharp things, shadows flickering across stone, heavy footsteps behind you, hands you can't push away. The next day, a woman finds you boiling water with herbs and asks if you can share. She has a rash on her arms, the skin cracked and oozing. You nod and pour half your mix into her pouch. She doesn't thank you, but leaves behind a bone needle. Barter, trade, peace. A quirky fact, archaeological digs in Europe have found Ice Age sewing kits, slender bone needles, some with grooves for thread. Whoever used them knew precision, detail, craft born not from art but from necessity. You start stitching more now. Hides for warmth, pouches for foraging, a tiny sling for the baby so your hands can be free again. You take pride in your stitches. The cleaner they are, the more you feel like you still have control over something. One morning, you find the baby trying to roll over. It grunts with effort, red in the face. You smile, real wide. You clap softly. A few children nearby mimic you, clapping too, not knowing why. But it feels like something sacred, a moment, a milestone. You tuck it away in your memory like a dried flower between pages. But not all days are quiet. Another child, a girl, 2 winters older than yours, is found cold beside the wall. No injuries, no cause, just still. Her mother doesn't scream, just rocks back and forth, pressing her own face into the child's chest like she can reheat it with breath alone. You hold your baby tighter that night. You sing, not a song you know, but something you invent, soft and rising. You hum until your own breathing slows. You hum until the fire fades into the rhythm of a dream. Historians still argue whether these people mourned the way we do. Some say yes, evidence of burial rituals, grave goods, even flowers pressed near remains. Others argue that grief was too dangerous, that those who stopped moving, even for sorrow, didn't last long. You wonder if it's possible to carry your sadness silently enough that no one hears it rattle in your chest. You begin to notice how the baby responds to sound now. The crackle of fire, the snapping of branches, the sharp whistle of a thrown spear. You wonder how many of these will become normal to them, the way they became normal to you. One of the elders teaches you how to make a poultice. You listen carefully. She's old, but her fingers still move with purpose. You grind herbs, smear fat, wrap moss in bark. You remember every step. One day, someone will need it. Maybe you, maybe your child. Your man hasn't spoken to you in 3 days. Good, you savor the silence. In it, you teach your child how to crawl, how to chew, how to disappear in a room full of noise. Because that, you've learnt, is the most important skill of all. You've now kept the child alive for 3 full moons. That alone makes you exceptional. Others haven't been so lucky. You've seen the empty furs, the women with their arms too still, eyes too quiet. You've seen small shapes wrapped in bark and taken into the trees. No ceremony, no songs, just the sound of snow crunching under bare feet, and the wind pretending it didn't notice. Your baby has survived, but you wouldn't say it's thriving. It coughs sometimes, deep, wet, rattling like stones in a pouch. You rub its back, you whisper to it, you boil water with herbs, and breathe the steam over both your faces. You hope that's enough. The clan is moving again, slowly, creaking like old bones. You pack light, your sharpest bone tool, the child's sling, and a softened leather pouch filled with scraps of dried meat and crushed berries. No room for anything sentimental. No one carries memories here. Walking is pain. The baby is heavier now. Your back is still weak from the birth. You try not to limp. Limping is weakness, and weakness gets left behind. The journey takes 3 days, through woods that whisper threats, across rivers still crusted with old ice, past hills where wolves watch and wait, yellow eyes like twin flames in the dusk. You make it to the new shelter, a shallow cave, mossy and cold, less home, more hole, but it will do. You're put to work right away. No one says thank you. The men go to scout. The women boil roots and patch hides. You find yourself in charge of 2 toddlers, neither yours. They poke at the fire. One nearly falls in. You catch her by the arm. She doesn't thank you. No one does. Historians still argue whether early child-rearing was communal or maternal, most likely both. If the child survived, no one cared whose it was. If it died, well, same rule. You dream that night of falling, slow, into water too dark to see through. When you wake, the baby is crying, face flushed, arms flailing. You soothe it. You whisper its secret name. You'd begun to forget what your own name feels like on your tongue. There's a day when you try to teach it to stand. You prop it up between 2 logs, hold its arms, cheer in your own quiet way. It wobbles, then sits hard, surprised, but not hurt, not afraid. You laugh, the first true sound from your throat in weeks. One of the women watches. She nods. That's it. That's the praise you'll get. You begin to see the cycles now, not just moons or seasons, but the rhythm of children being born, crawling, walking, bleeding, bending. You see yourself in all of them, and none of them. You find the small stone carving again, the one you made during pregnancy. It was in the bottom of your pouch, wrapped in old fur. You hold it in your palm and press it to the baby's forehead, just once. You don't know why. Maybe it's magic, maybe it's habit. A quirky fact: some Paleolithic tools have small notches that experts believe were made for counting moons, perhaps, or days of bleeding, maybe even the lives lost. You think about making your own, then decide not to. You can't afford to count. The baby begins to mimic your mouth. Open, close, a shape, a sound. It says car. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe it means everything. You repeat it back. Car. A language is forming, secret and sacred, just for the 2 of you. You still sleep lightly. Every snap outside the cave wakes you. You keep your tool close, just in case. Not for animals, for people. You've learnt the difference. One morning, you find a child shivering near the edge of camp, alone, hungry. His mother hasn't returned from foraging. You pick him up, you feed him from your stash, you hold him against your chest until he stops shaking. When his mother returns, she takes him without a word, but she gives you a piece of smoked fish wrapped in bark. That's gratitude here, sharp, quiet, salty. Later, a boy in the camp throws a rock at your baby. Not hard, but hard enough. You stand, you say nothing. You walk over, you take his rock, you throw it far into the woods. He doesn't try it again. That night, your man returns. He smells like blood and wet grass. He doesn't say anything, just drops a deer thigh near the fire and sits. You feel his eyes on you. You ignore them. He doesn't come near, not this time. Maybe he's tired, maybe he's afraid of something new in your eyes, maybe he's noticed you don't bend anymore when he speaks. You still feel the bruises though, not fresh, just remembered, like echoes in your skin. There's a woman with a limp in the camp. She walks slowly, but her hands are fast. She carves better than anyone else. One day, she gives you a comb made from bone. You didn't ask for it. She just places it beside your sleeping mat. You use it in secret. It hurts, but it feels like something beyond survival. It feels like ownership. The baby is stronger now, laughs more, sleeps longer, tries to climb things that aren't meant to be climbed. You let it fall, let it learn. The others begin to notice. One calls your child clever. Another says, you feed it well. These are the Ice Age's version of medals. You wear them in your spine. Still, you wake each day uncertain. Still, you wonder how long this borrowed peace will last. But for now, just now, the baby sleeps through the night. And so do you. It starts with the fire. You've taught your child not to touch it, but that lesson came with blisters. Now when the flames crackle, the little one stares from a safe distance, whispering its secret word for hot, a word only you understand. The child is nearly walking, wobbly steps, arms flailing like a bird, just learning how to use its wings. You don't guide it much, you let it fall, let it cry, let it get back up. That's the only kind of strength that matters here, falling and standing back up without needing someone to pull you. In the evenings, the cave is loud, not with speech. Speech is expensive, but with the sounds of people settling, bones creaking, stomachs rumbling, someone sharpening tools, someone else coughing, always coughing. It blends into the lullaby of your world. You watch your child mimic others. It tries to copy the older boys throwing rocks. It imitates the way a woman grinds seeds between stones. Once you find it tapping two bones together, like the hunters do when calling animals closer. You hide a smile behind your hand. You've started to tell it stories now, not with words, but with gestures. You act out how a tree bends in wind, how a fox moves through brush. You become the snow. You become the mammoth. Your child laughs and claps and repeats the movements until the cave becomes a stage of shadows and memory. Historians still argue whether storytelling was used to teach survival or simply to ease the crushing pressure of existence. You know the truth, it's both. Story is how you pass on the fire. There are rules here, most of them silent. Don't step too close to the old woman with missing teeth. Don't eat first if you're not strong. Don't let the men see you cry. And most of all, never make noise after dark. Your child hasn't learned that last one yet. One night, a giggle escapes. Just one, bright and sharp. You freeze. A man across the fire glares. Your child goes quiet. Your heart keeps racing long after. There's a spot near the back of the cave where the wall is warm. You sleep there now, the baby beside you, the bone needle under your fur, your ears alert, your back always to the wall. A quirky fact, some cave sites show markings that appear to be don't symbols, patterns scratched across handprints, as if someone was saying, not here, not safe, not anymore. You start to see those kinds of warnings in the faces of women, in the placement of bodies around fire. There's a little girl with wide eyes and burn marks on her wrist. You give her a piece of dried apple you saved from the last foraging trip. She doesn't smile. She just hides it quickly in her fur. Good. She knows not to draw attention. Your child makes friends, or as close to friends as this world allows. A boy with sharp eyes and a soft voice. A girl who collects feathers and never speaks. They move together like small wolves, learning each other's moods, growing bold near the river but quiet in the cave. Sometimes you wonder what will happen when they're older, if this bond will last, or if the world will crack it apart like everything else. Your man has become quieter, not gone, just removed. He doesn't ask questions, doesn't give orders. He sees you with the child and turns away. Once you catch him watching you smile, he looks surprised, like he forgot your face could do that. The other women begin to include you again. You're invited to sit closer to the fire. Someone hands you a strip of sinew when your pouch breaks. Another asks your opinion about which berries are safest. You nod answer. You've earned your way back in, but there's still the child to protect. You start showing it rules, quiet rules. No crying when others are eating. No touching men's tools. No walking near the fire unless you can carry water. You teach it how to read a face, how to tell when someone is joking or when someone is about to become dangerous. You teach your child to pretend to be smaller than it is. Historians still wonder how much was passed from mother to child before language. They theorize gestures, tone, rhythm. They underestimate how much a child can learn from fear. One day, a man laughs too loud. Everyone freezes. He's drunk. You feel the shift, that tension like a string pulled too tight. He yells at someone, his woman, maybe, or his shadow. You grab your child and pull it to your lap. Tight, too tight. It doesn't squirm. It understands. Later, after he's passed out, one of the women hums a song you haven't heard in a long time. Something about water, about stars. It makes you cry, quietly. The kind of crying that doesn't leave a trace. You find a flat stone by the stream. You scratch lines into it with your tool. One for each moon the child has lived. One for each day it didn't get sick. One for each night you woke up and found it still breathing. It's not art, it's a scoreboard. That night, your child sleeps with its hand curled around your wrist. You leave it there, still and warm, and dream of a world where this grip never has to tighten in fear. There are bruises that heal, and then there are the others. The kind that don't show, the ones you carry under your skin, like buried stones, heavy, quiet, shaped by hands that never asked. Your man has changed again, not his face, not his voice, but the air around him. Tense, it clings to him like smoke. He hasn't struck you in weeks, but that doesn't mean safety. Sometimes silence is worse than rage. At least rage has a beginning and an end. He drinks more now. Whatever mix they've been fermenting, roots, berries, fungus, it rots his breath and softens his voice, but not his grip. You keep your distance. You move around him like water, fluid, hard to catch. The child watches, always watching. You teach it not to ask, not to speak when he enters the cave, not to look too long. You're shaping it into something small, something invisible. You hate that, but you do it anyway. One night, he grabs your wrist too hard, over nothing, a misplaced tool, a sideways glance. You don't remember what set him off, only the snap of bone on bone. The pain floods in, hot and slow. You say nothing. You don't scream. That would make it worse. You rock the child with your good arm. The other you wrap in cloth, soaked with crushed herbs and spit. It throbs like a second heartbeat. No one says anything. No one ever does. One woman meets your eyes. She sees. She doesn't speak. Later she leaves a strip of bark paste beside your fur. It smells like pine and moss. You use it. It helps. Historians still debate whether early societies had rules around domestic violence. If they did, they weren't for your protection. Your child asks, one morning, why did he do that? Not in words, not exactly, just in tone, in gesture, in the slow, careful way they touch your wrapped wrist. You lie. He was angry. That answer isn't enough, but it's all you have. You begin sleeping with your tool closer to your hand, not in a pouch, not hidden, out in the open, a flake of obsidian with one sharp edge. He sees it, says nothing. A quirky fact, in some female skeletons from this era, archaeologists have found signs of healed fractures. Ribs, fingers, sometimes skulls, injuries too frequent to be accidents. The cave does not forget, but the bones remain silent. One day, a young woman arrives from another group. She's been traded for meat, or tools, or peace. No one says it directly, but everyone knows. She's quiet, looks barely past bleeding age. You watch her being shown where to sleep, near your man. You don't sleep that night, not out of jealousy, out of dread, because you know what waits for her now. In the morning she doesn't speak, just stares at the fire like it's asking her questions. She can't answer. You offer her water. She takes it. Her hands shake. You wonder if this is your future too. Passed on, used up, replaced like an old hide. You wonder if someone will do this to your daughter, if she survives long enough to bleed. You tell yourself she won't. You promise her, silently, that she won't. But you know the truth. This world doesn't care what you promise. The boy who once threw a rock at your child is dead now. A fall, they say, slipped into the river. Or maybe it was punishment. You don't ask. His mother sits by the edge of the camp, humming a tune no one joins. People give her distance. Grief is contagious here. You hold your child closer that night. You run your fingers through their hair until your hand goes numb. There's a warmth in your chest that refuses to leave. Not love, not hope. Something angrier, something brighter. It makes you look at your man and imagine the fire spreading over him. You push the thought away, but it returns. You begin to plan, not for escape. You'd never survive alone out there, but for something else, something smaller, sharper. You've seen where he sleeps. You've seen how deep he drinks. You teach your child more now, how to tie knots, how to stay still for long stretches of time, how to identify safe leaves. You're not raising a child, you're forging a survivor. The young woman cries once, quiet, sudden. You press a piece of soft hide into her hands, not for her face, for her mouth. You don't say, I understand, you just sit nearby, sharpening your tool. One day, a wolf appears near camp, starving, limping. It doesn't attack, it just watches. You watch it back. You both understand something about hunger. The others chase it off, but in your dreams, it returns and speaks. It says, you don't have to wait forever. The fire goes out during the night. Not just yours, all of them. Someone forgot to feed it. Or maybe the wind slipped in and carried the coals away. Either way, you wake up to cold so sharp, it bites the tips of your fingers before your eyes even open. The baby shivers against you, whimpering like a wounded animal. You hold it tighter, try to share what little heat your body still has left. It's not enough. No one speaks at first. The adults rise slowly, blinking, coughing, limbs stiff from the frost. Someone curses under their breath. Another kicks a pile of ash in frustration. It's too early for this kind of disaster. Fire is everything. Without it, water won't boil. Meat stays raw. Darkness becomes a predator. Children die. Your man grumbles and stomps outside to look for dry twigs, but the forest is too wet, the snow too deep, the bark too old. You've seen this before. You gather with the women, shoulders close, hands trembling. You remember how to spark flint, but the stone must be dry. The air must be still. None of those things exist this morning. Someone begins to cry, not loudly, but in the way an animal does when it's been trapped too long. You don't even look to see who it is. Hours pass, still no flame. Historians still argue whether Ice Age humans stored embers or recreated fire each day. You know how hard it is to start from nothing. That's why someone always sleeps near the fire. That's why losing it is like losing a member of the clan. You take your child and walk away from the cave. Not far, just to a small rock hollow where the wind doesn't reach. You strike flint again, again, again. Nothing. Your hands blister. Still you try. Eventually, a spark. Small, flickering. You blow gently, shielded with your body. A thread of smoke rises, a flicker, then flame. You carry it back in a bowl of bark and ash. Your child looks at you like you've done magic. Maybe you have. No one thanks you, but they let you sit near the center again. That night, you eat boiled roots and meat tougher than leather. You don't care. The fire is back. But it came too late for two of the children. Twins, barely walking. They hadn't moved all morning. When their mother touched them, they didn't respond. There's no burial, just a quiet walk to the woods. The same woman returns with empty hands and dead eyes. You sit beside her that evening. You don't speak, she doesn't cry, but she presses her shoulder into yours for a long, long time. Later, someone sings, a low, wordless sound. It fills the cave like a second fire. The children lean into their mothers. The men don't interrupt. You hum along. The next day, your child finds a beetle and holds it like treasure. You laugh, a sound that feels too big for your throat. Then you let them keep it. A friend is a friend, even if it has 6 legs. A quirky fact, in some ancient graves, children were buried with small animals. Birds, rodents, sometimes insects, encased in bark, companions, symbols, maybe just comfort. Your man hasn't spoken since the fire. You're glad. He watches you now, not like he owns you, but like he doesn't know what you're capable of anymore. That's good. Let him wonder. That night he doesn't sleep beside you. He lies near the younger woman now. She doesn't cry. She doesn't move. You place your fur between her and him while he's outside. Just a small act. A line drawn in fur and silence. You think about warmth a lot. Not just the kind from fire, but the kind you never knew. An embrace without obligation. A voice that doesn't raise. A home where you could sleep without bracing. Maybe such things don't exist. Or maybe you'll build them yourself. Your child has started speaking real words now. Just 2, hot and mine. You try not to smile too wide when they say the second one, because in a world where nothing belongs to you, not your body, not your space, not even your name, hearing mine feels like resistance. You give them more space to explore. You let them climb rocks, poke holes in the snow, taste bark. You watch, but you don't hover. You want them to grow teeth, to grow legs strong enough to run. Historians often say that prehistoric children were mini adults. They forget how many of them didn't make it long enough to be anything else. One evening, your child brings you a bone with a perfect hole in it. Like a flute, you blow through it. It makes a sound, thin, high, like a bird's cry. You play it again. The sound echoes. You hand it back. Yours, you say. They clutch it to their chest. The fire's stronger now. You've built up extra wood, stashed bark in dry hollows. You won't be caught off guard again. But even with fire, the cold still comes. Not from outside, but from inside the bones of people who've lost too much. You know what it looks like. That slowness, that stillness, the way someone forgets how to laugh. You've walked close to that edge yourself, but you came back. And every time your child curls up beside you and says mine, you know you've lit a fire that won't go out easily. The old woman dies in her sleep. You wake to the absence of her breath. At first, no one notices, just another silent body near the wall. But when the others rise and begin moving and she doesn't, something shifts. A ripple through the cave, quiet but firm. No wailing, no chaos, just stillness, as if the cave itself pauses to listen. She was the last of her kind in your group, wrinkled like old bark, with hands that never stopped moving even when they trembled. She taught you to grind roots the right way, showed you how to press moss into a wound to stop the bleeding. Once she even pulled a thorn from your child's heel and smiled so slightly it felt like a blessing. Now she's gone. You expected more grief, but all you see are nods, a long look, a bundle prepared. She's wrapped in fur and carried away. Not far, just past the tree line. No one speaks. The men dig with sticks and hands. The earth is frozen stubborn, but they work. Your child clings to your side. They don't understand what's happening, only that it's serious. You squat low and whisper, "She went back to the cold." You don't know if it's true, but it's something. Historians still debate what role elders played in Paleolithic life. Some say they were revered for wisdom. Others argue they were a burden once their strength left them. Maybe both. You've seen it, how the old are listened to, until they're not. Back in the cave, there's a space now, a quiet, where her fire used to burn low. The women move their things around, rearrange the world. The children fill the silence with sticks and small bright noises. Life seeps back in. You watch it, uneasy. You feel a weight in your chest you can't quite name. You hadn't realized how often you looked to her face, how often her silence calmed yours. You hadn't realized how much you needed someone older than you to still be alive. That night, the fire doesn't burn as hot. You feed it anyway. You whisper a thank you to the sparks. A quirky fact, some graves from this era show signs of pigment ochre painted on bones. Red, the color of blood and warmth. A final coat, maybe a memory, maybe a warning. Your child asks you, later, where did she go? You answer slowly, shaping the truth into something bearable, to where the fire never goes out. They accept it. For now, days pass. You feel the shape of her missing presence every time you reach for something she once touched. A herb bundle, a carved bowl, a story. She told the best ones, the ones about the time the stars fell and the river turned white, the ones about women who turned into wolves to escape their mates. You believed every word, still do. Now the younger women look at you more, not quite with expectation, but with something close to it. You've seen enough births, kept your child alive long enough, taken enough blows without breaking. In this world, that's what passes for experience. You don't want to lead, but you know things now, things they haven't lived yet. Pain becomes knowledge when no one explains it to you. You catch yourself scolding a younger girl one morning. She's holding a knife the wrong way. You snap. You'll cut your thumb off. She flinches. You soften. Hold it like this, you say, and guide her hand. She listens. She nods. She doesn't speak, but she tells you thank you with her eyes. Later, she brings you a cleaned pelt. It's not well done, but it's her best. You take it. You lay it over your sleeping space. You feel older than you did the day before. You think about your own mother. Brief flashes, her hands, her voice, her death. You try to remember the last thing she ever said to you. You can't. All you remember is the sound of her fire going out, just like the old woman's. And now, you are the fire. It's a quiet burden, heavy, sacred. There's a girl in the group, just starting to bleed. You can tell, the way she walks, the way she avoids the men's eyes. You catch her wrist one evening, offer her a pouch of softened moss. She stares, then takes it. Her hands are shaking. You say, "It doesn't last forever." She nods. Maybe she believes you, maybe she doesn't. Your child brings you a rock, smooth, oval, like an egg. They say, it looks like a heart. You blink. You didn't teach them that word. You're not sure who did. You say, it does. They give it to you. You keep it in your pouch, not for survival, for memory. That night, you sit near the fire and speak to no one in particular. You tell a story the old woman once told about the woman who outlived winter by stealing its shadow. You act out the motions. You let your voice rise and fall. The younger ones stare. Even the men glance over. You finish with a whisper, and that's why we thank the last ember every night. Someone behind you repeats it under their breath. The fire pops. You're not sure when it happened, but you've become one of the old women. You stand at the cave entrance, the wind pulling at your hair like a bored child. Behind you, the fire hums and crackles. Ahead of you, the world is wide, blanketed in frost and silence. You've thought about stepping beyond that line before, the invisible edge between safety and everything else. You know the path past the river, the curve of the hill, the hollow tree full of birds that don't sing anymore. But you've never walked past the ridge alone. No one does. The forest beyond is quiet in a way that doesn't feel empty. It watches, it listens, and it doesn't care what you want. Your child tugs at your sleeve. They want to go down to the stream to find the smooth rocks they like to collect. You shake your head. Not today, not that direction. They frown. You don't explain. You just hold their hand. Inside the cave, life continues. The women weave bark fibers into cords. The men argue over tracks, deer or boar. A girl slices her palm on flint and doesn't cry. You patch her hand with moss and lichen. She nods once, then goes back to work. But your thoughts are outside, beyond the ridge. Historians still wonder how mobile Paleolithic clans really were. Did they settle for seasons, roam in circles, or live like smoke drifting, directionless, going wherever the hunger pushed them? You think of the forest path as a test, a gate, a question you haven't dared to answer. At night, you whisper stories into your child's hair. One about a woman who walked beyond the trees and returned with a feather that made her invisible. Another about a cave where the stars fell asleep in the roof and never woke up. You're not sure you believe them anymore, but your child's eyes grow wide, and that's enough. There's tension in the group. One of the hunters didn't return. The men whisper. The women pretend not to listen. You sharpen a bone knife just a little too long. Your man hasn't spoken to you in days. Good. He sleeps farther away now, wrapped around the younger woman like she's firewood. You notice bruises on her neck one morning. She won't meet your eyes. You place a sharpened stone near her bedding. Quietly, no one sees. Your child is asking more questions lately. Why do we stay here? What's past the trees? Can people live in the stars? You answer carefully, truth wrapped in metaphor. You say, we stay because we know where the firewood is. You say, past the trees are the things you can't unsee. And when they ask about the stars, you say, they watch us when we forget who we are. They nod like they understand. Maybe they do. A quirky fact, certain cave systems contain chambers with deep acoustics, places where sound echoes in strange, haunting ways. Archaeologists believe these may have been used for rituals or storytelling or speaking with ancestors. You once screamed into a hollow like that as a child. It never gave your voice back. One morning, you wake early. The cave is still asleep. You gather your pouch, your child's hand, and step just past the line. Not far, just enough to feel the difference. The air tastes wilder. The bird song is sharper. You breathe deeply, then kneel and show your child the frost on a leaf. You tell them how it forms, how it disappears with light. You walk back before anyone notices. But something inside you stays out there. That night your child asks, will I leave someday? You look at their small face, their cold hands. You want to say no. You want to keep them near, wrapped in furs and firelight. But you say yes, one day, because you hope they will, even if you never could. Someone's carving figures into the cave wall again, shapes of animals, people with spears, swirls that might be rivers or dreams. Your child watches, then picks up a piece of charcoal and draws a circle. You ask what it is. They say, "The place we don't go." You stare at it for a long time. Your hands are rough now, hard as bark. Your voice carries more weight. You tell stories, give advice, mend wounds. You see them look to you the way you once looked to the old woman. And still, you wonder what lies beyond the ridge. Your child draws another shape beside the first. This time it's smaller, a spiral. "What's that?" you ask. They say, "It's me going there." You nod. You don't say, "Be careful." You don't say, "Don't go." You just put your hand over theirs, press their charcoal-stained fingers gently into the stone. The fire pops behind you. The cave murmurs. The wind outside does not speak. But in your chest, something answers. Blood on the moss again. Not yours this time. The girl, the one just past her first bleeding, sits near the fire, her knees pulled tightly to her chest. Her face is blank, but you know that look. You've worn it so long it almost became your face. There's a smear on the inside of her thigh, faint, faded, but real. She doesn't meet anyone's eyes. No one asks. Not the other women, not the men, not even the one you know did it. He sits near the edge, sharpening a stone like nothing's happened, like it was just another meal. You feel the rage rise in your throat like bile, but you swallow it. Rage is dangerous when there's no plan behind it. You watch, you wait. Later, you crouch beside the girl as she stares into the fire. You don't touch her, just hand her a clean strip of moss and a scrap of pelt to sit on. She flinches at first, then takes them. "That's enough." You whisper, "You're not broken." She doesn't answer, but she doesn't walk away. Historians still argue whether women formed quiet resistance networks in early human societies, whether knowledge, protection, and silence were the tools they passed along, like flint blades and bone needles. You know they did, because you're part of one now. The next day, she's different, not healed, just harder. She walks like her ribs are braced with stone. You nod as she passes. She nods back. That's your ritual now. You find yourself watching her as you once watched your own reflection in still water, careful, sad, full of warnings you can't say aloud. That night, you give her a knife, small, bone, sharpened so finely it glints in the firelight. You say, "Keep it near." That's all. She takes it. You think she will use it, if she has to. Your child is growing fast now. Taller, leaner, asking better questions. "What makes a person bad?" they ask. You pause, then say, "Someone who takes without asking." They think on it for a long time, then nod. "We don't like that person," they say. "No," you whisper, "we don't." There's a storm brewing, one of those early spring tempests that rattle the trees and turn paths into rivers. The air smells of soil and tension. The men argue over where to hunt next. The food stores are low again. You know what that means. Pressure, frustration, anger, looking for somewhere to land. You sleep light, knife within reach. You check on the girl. She still has hers. You exhale. A quirky fact. Some cave systems show signs of organized female-only spaces, shelters within shelters, sometimes with higher ceilings, better acoustics, softer bedding. Not proven, not certain, but real enough in your imagination. You begin to carve, not for tools, for messages, small marks beneath sleeping mats, a scratch here, a notch there. You show the girl, you show two others, one older, one barely bleeding. You tell them if something happens, follow the marks. They nod. You're building something. Not rebellion, not yet. but readiness. Your child trips while chasing a bird and cuts their lip. They cry, not from pain, but from shock. You kneel beside them, wipe the blood, press your forehead to theirs. You're okay. You whisper. You're strong. They smile through tears. Like you want to say no, that you're scared every night, that survival is mostly pretending. But instead, you say, stronger. The girl, the one with the knife, sleeps closer to the fire now, closer to the other women, farther from the men. You all shift around her like leaves, forming a circle, unspoken, protective. Your man notices. He doesn't speak. He moves his sleeping mat even farther away. You watch him like a hunter watches a wounded animal, ready to strike but not wasting energy. The girl smiles once, just a flicker, a spark in the gloom. You feel pride in your chest, like a hidden ember. You whisper a new story to your child, one you've made up, about a bird that lived in a tree no one could cut down. Every time someone tried, the tree grew thicker, stronger. The bird sang louder. You say she sang so loud that even the wind stopped to listen. Your child asks, did they cut the tree? No, you say. They gave up. Why? Because they were afraid of what she might do next. Historians still argue whether women in the Ice Age had stories of their own, whether the myths we tell now ever came from their lips. You believe they did, whispered, traced in ash, passed like torches between girls pretending to sleep. That night the storm arrives. Thunder shakes the cave. Rain hammers the stone above. You press your child to your chest. The girl grips her knife. No one sleeps much, but no one breaks either. You've learned how to disappear. Not by vanishing, no, there's nowhere to go, but by shrinking, by softening your breath, by moving like a shadow with its head down. You slip past his gaze before he notices it's risen. You answer before he finishes the question. You agree before you're asked. Your body learned this long before your mind did. It flinches before he lifts a hand, hunches before his voice changes. It doesn't matter if he doesn't touch you tonight. The memory of touch is enough to keep your heart racing even in silence. Your child knows something is wrong, but not the shape of it. They hug you tighter some nights. Say don't let the wind take you. You promise you won't, though it already has, in pieces. The girl with the knife doesn't speak much anymore. Not because she's afraid, because she's watching, learning. You see it in the way she carries herself. She used to walk like prey. Now she moves like something wild that hasn't decided whether to bite. Your man is slipping again. His mood's like the weather. No warning, no reason. He's not always cruel. That would be easier. Sometimes he brings meat, or tells a joke, or ruffles your child's hair. And for a moment, you want to believe he's good. That maybe he's just broken like everything else here. But then he drinks, and the quiet turns sharp. Last night he shouted at the girl, no reason, just noise. She stood still, unmoving, eyes fixed on the fire. She didn't flinch. That scared him more than if she had. You watched, you waited, and you felt something inside you settle, like a trap. Historians still argue if Paleolithic women ever resisted their own men. The tools were there, stones, bones, fire. But resistance isn't always violence. Sometimes it's endurance with a plan. A quirky fact. In one cave, archaeologists found the handprints of women and children alongside the outlines of hunted animals. Some believe they were rituals for protection. Others think they were warnings. You start drawing again. Not pictures. Marks. A slash under the fire pit, a circle beside the moss pile, an arrow carved into the underside of the food bowl. You teach the girl what they mean. You teach your child what they mean. You're not sure who will need them first. One night, he hits you. Not hard, just enough to remind you he can. You say nothing. You walk away. You clean your lip in the stream. Your reflection ripples with the blood. You don't cry. Later he tries to joke with you, his voice too loud, his laugh too slow. You smile the way you smile at the winter tight, with your teeth clenched. You think one day I won't need to smile at all. Your child finds a feather, bright blue, sticks it in their hair. They look at you with joy, so pure it stings. You whisper, you look like a god. They beam. You don't tell them that beauty like that is dangerous here. The girl sleeps with her knife in her hand now. You told her to. She listens. You sleep with yours under your furs. Sometimes you wonder if tonight will be the night, if the lines you've drawn will finally be followed, if the fire will cover the sound. Your man senses it, the shift, the narrowing of your silence, the way the women move closer when he enters. He doesn't say anything, but he drinks more, laughs louder, like a bear trying to scare something it can't see. The younger women look to you now. They don't ask, but they watch, the same way you once watched the old woman, who's now a pile of bones beneath the frost. You never wanted to lead, you still don't, but you've become the center, the quiet eye of the storm. Your child curls up beside you and whispers, "What happens when the bad people don't stop?" You stroke their hair. You say, "Then the good people stop waiting." They fall asleep. You lie awake. The wind outside howls. He doesn't come to your bedding at night. He knows. You don't remember when the sky last looked this clear. The clouds have thinned. The smoke from last night's fire has drifted low, brushing the trees instead of clinging to the ceiling of the cave. The stars pierce the darkness like flint through hide. Your child points at them, naming them with made-up words. "That one's mine," they say. "That one's yours." You nod. Let them believe that the stars can be owned, that the sky is soft and friendly, and not just the roof over a hard world. Tonight, for once, your man is gone. He left that morning with 2 others to hunt across the river. The deer tracks were fresh. He said he'd be back by nightfall, but night has come, and there is no sign of him. No one mentions it. You sit at the edge of the firelight, child on your lap, and for the first time in months, you feel still. The girl with the knife sits nearby, carving something into a flat bone. You can't see what. She looks peaceful, alert, but peaceful. You realize she hums the same tune the old woman used to hum when she ground roots into powder. It comes back to you in a rush. Her hands, her scent of crushed herbs and tanned leather. You want to cry. Instead, you breathe in through your nose, deep, and hold it. Maybe tonight is a gift. Maybe it's just the eye of the storm. You feed the fire a piece of dry bark. The sparks fly upward like insects, rising toward those impossible stars. One lands on your sleeve. You brush it off without looking. Your child presses their face into your shoulder. "Tell me a dream," they whisper. So you do. You make one up, about a cave where all the walls are warm, where the wind can't enter, and everyone inside speaks gently and means it. A place where meat never runs out, and no one takes more than they give. A place where no one needs to hide their tools under their bedding. You don't call it a dream. You say it's real, just far away. They ask, "Can we go there?" You pause, then say, "One day." You mean it. Historians still argue whether Ice Age people believed in paradise, whether the afterlife was cold and dark like the world, or warm and glowing like the stories they told. You think it doesn't matter. What matters is that they kept imagining. The girl leans in, shows you the bone. It's not a carving of an animal or a tool. It's a figure, a woman, standing, holding something in her hand. Maybe a knife, maybe a child. You don't speak. You reach out, take her hand, just for a moment. Then the dogs begin to bark. A low growl rolls through the cave. Bodies stir. Men rise slowly. Someone reaches for a spear. Your heart thuds, not in panic, but in preparation. Your eyes go to the path. Still no sign of him. Then footsteps. 2 men return, one limping, one dragging a deer carcass between them, but not him, not your man. The one with the limp says simply, "He fell." That's all. No one asks how. You do not ask how. You press your hand to your child's chest and feel their heartbeat. Steady, fast, alive. The girl with the knife doesn't blink. She looks into the fire like she's reading something only she can see. You exhale slowly. They leave the deer in the center and go to sleep without carving it. Too tired, too hungry, too unwilling to explain. You take your knife and begin to cut. The meat is thick, warm. You slice it with precision. You salt it with what little ash you have. The other women join in. No words, just the rhythm of work, the rhythm of life continuing. Later, when your child sleeps, you walk to the edge of the camp, past the fire, past the furs. You stand where the stars are clearest, and you light your own fire. A small one, just yours, no one's fire but yours. It flickers quietly, no bigger than your palm, but it's enough to warm your face. You don't ask permission, not anymore. You wake early, before the light finds the cave mouth, and wrap yourself in a dark fur. You leave your child sleeping, curled like a question mark, beneath the thicker hides. You place a small pile of berries beside them, a promise. Then you walk. Not far, not yet, just beyond the outer stones, past the marks that say safe and ours, into the trees, where no one is supposed to go alone, especially not women, especially not now. The forest receives you without comment. Branches bow slightly under melting frost. A raven watches from above, turning its head with a slow blink. You step carefully. The cold is sharp but familiar, like an old scar that only aches when it rains. You're not hunting, not for meat, not today. You're hunting for yourself. There's a stream nearby, and you find it by sound, the rush of meltwater over stone, gurgling like laughter with a closed mouth. You crouch, wash your face, rinse the dirt from your fingers. Then you reach into your pouch and pull out the bone knife. Not the one you sleep with, the new one, shorter, sharper, made by your own hands. You stand in silence and throw it at the nearest tree. It misses. You try again. Miss again. This time it sticks. A small sound, thunk, like an agreement between the blade and the bark. You pull it free and do it again. And again. Your breath forms clouds. Your arms burn. You bleed once. A slip, but you don't stop. You aren't practicing violence. You're practicing choice. Historians still debate whether women hunted in the Ice Age. Some say only men held spears, but recent finds suggest otherwise. Buried women with projectile points wear patterns on bones consistent with throwing and skill. You already knew that. Back at the cave, the girl watches the younger ones play. She's begun showing them how to tie knots, not toy knots. Escape knots. You taught her those. Now she teaches others. That's how the fire spreads, quietly. Your child greets you when you return. You went past the trees, they say. Not an accusation, just awe. You nod. Why? You say, to see how far I could go. They smile and take your hand. The men notice. You coming back with twigs in your hair, blood on your palm, and something harder behind your eyes. They don't say anything, but they notice. That night, someone tells a story about a hunt gone wrong. The details are strange. It involves a cliff, a misstep, a fall that no one could stop. They don't use your man's name, but they all look at you once, and only once. You don't look back. Instead, you sharpen a stick and hand it to your child. Hold this, you say. It's not a toy. They nod solemnly. You sleep better now. Not always, not deeply, but better. Your dreams have changed. Less running, more standing. less silence, more songs you don't remember learning. A quirky fact, some Ice Age flutes were made from bird bones, delicate, hollow, carved with holes. Music older than war, older than gods. You like to believe women played them too. You like to believe someone once stood in a clearing like you did, and played until the stars leaned closer. In the morning, a rabbit appears near the cave. No one notices but you. It's fat. Slow, you throw your knife. It dies clean. You bring it back, skin it, cook it yourself. You feed your child first, then the girl, then yourself. The others watch, but they do not interfere. Later, someone says, "Where'd you learn that?" You say, "Out there." And that's the end of it. You don't wait for praise. Praise is the language of people who still need permission. You are past that now. Your child draws a figure in the dirt, a woman, big, with something long in her hand. You ask, "Is that me?" They say, "It's all of us." You look around, the girl, the younger women, even the old one, back when she still hummed. You say, "Yes, it is." And the fire crackles in agreement. You sit by the fire, watching the girl as she teaches the little ones to throw stones, not for play, but for precision. She has them aim at a circle scratched into the cave wall. Most of the stones bounce off or miss entirely. One of the toddlers throws his stone and immediately bursts into tears when it ricochets. She picks it up, places it back in his hand, and says, "Again." He throws again, misses again, but doesn't cry. This is how it begins, not with speeches, not with revolt, but with gestures, repetition, quiet resistance. You sharpen your tools nearby. You don't speak, but the girl looks to you now like a younger version of yourself, watching fire catch for the first time. Your child approaches with 2 questions, written all over their face. What are we doing? And can I help? You give them the smallest knife, blunt enough to be safe, sharp enough to be taken seriously. You show them how to clean it. They mirror your movements like a dance passed down through blood. The others, especially the men, pretend not to notice what's happening, but they do. You see it in the way they glance when you hand out dried meat, when the girl lifts her voice over theirs during tasking, when your child walks straighter like they own the air around them. Historians still debate whether early matriarchies ever existed. The evidence is sparse, suggestive, fragile. A few graves with female figures buried with tools, with status. It's not enough to say yes, but it's too much to ignore. You don't call this leadership, you call it remembering. One night, one of the men says something crude, the kind of thing that used to pass unnoticed. But the girl hears it, stands up, and walks away without flinching. No tears, no reaction, just dismissal. And that hurts him more than any knife. The younger women follow her. Later, around the fire, you tell a story, one they've never heard before. It's about a woman who taught other women how to hunt, how to hide tools in plain sight, how to track men the way men track prey. A woman who outlived every name they gave her. The story isn't exactly true, but it's not a lie either. When you finish, there's a long silence. Then a voice from the dark says, "Tell it again." So you do. The fire reflects in everyone's eyes. Your child begins to ask sharper questions. Why do men eat first? Why do they get the dry furs? Why do they yell more when they're wrong? You don't answer all of them, but you say, "Ask again tomorrow." You want them to keep questioning. You want them to dig into the world like it's a pelt to be scraped clean. A quirky fact, in some Ice Age burial sites, children were laid with stones shaped like animals, totems perhaps, or symbols of what they would become. You imagine your child buried with a bone knife, a strand of sinew, and a story scratched into the dirt nearby. You're not planning on dying though, not yet. The girl finds you later with a piece of bark rolled into a scroll. Inside it, a small pile of herbs. Pain medicine. She says nothing, but you know why she gave it. You nod. Your hands brush, and that's the agreement. You no longer shrink when someone shouts. You no longer ask before you walk beyond the ridge. You no longer forget who you were before the first bruise. The girl speaks more now, not with stories, with instruction. Boil longer. Bend the sinew here. Don't step where the ice is grey. Her voice carries weight. You helped build that weight. She carries it well. Your child stands on a stone and announces, "I want to build a bigger fire than the men." Everyone laughs, not mockingly, just surprised. You say, "Then gather wood," and they do. Later, they return dragging a branch twice their height. The women help break it down. The men do not interfere. You light the fire together, and it burns bright, too bright to ignore. You lie down that night, not on the edge of the group, but at its center, fur under your back, knife in reach, child at your side. The fire crackles, and for once no one interrupts your dreams. The night sky is darker than usual. No stars tonight, just a black sheet above the treetops, heavy and unreadable. The air feels still, but not peaceful. It's the kind of stillness that comes before something breaks. Your child is asleep, one hand wrapped around your wrist, their little body curled against yours like a root against stone. You stay awake longer than you should, listening. The girl doesn't sleep either. You can hear her breath on the other side of the fire, slow and careful, like she's testing the silence to see if it flinches. Then a sound, heavy footsteps outside the cave. Everyone stiffens. It's a man from a nearby clan. You've seen him once at a river crossing months ago. He traded bone needles for fish. Now he stands at the mouth of your shelter, flanked by two others. All three carry spears. All three are too calm. Your child wakes and whispers, "Why are they here?" You don't answer. The men speak to yours, what's left of your group's hunters. There are fewer now, thinner, more tired. They talk in low tones about territory, about food, about whether your cave is too close to theirs. But you know what this is. A claim. The wordless threat woven into conversation. A negotiation where the knives speak louder than the mouths. One of the strangers glances at the girl. Too long. His eyes don't ask, they expect. You move closer to her without standing. Your hand rests near your knife. Not on it. Not yet. The leader says, "If your fire burns too hot, it'll catch our trees." He smiles like a bear. You don't like metaphors. You like facts. You say nothing. Historians still argue how often conflict erupted between bands, whether it was rare or routine, ritual or random. Some say women were traded to prevent bloodshed. Others say they were taken after it began. You've prepared for this moment for months. The men leave, but not before saying, "We'll return," with gifts. No one says what kind. The girl breathes just once, like she's letting the rage settle before it cracks her ribs. That night, you draw the fire away from the center, just slightly. You reposition the youngest women closer to the wall. You speak softly. If anything happens, go east, past the ridge, follow the red stones. You'll find the stream. They listen. They nod. The girl repeats the words to the younger ones. You don't practice for violence. You prepare for silence after the scream. A quirky fact, some burial sites show signs of sudden death. Bones snapped, tools buried mid-carving, fire pits cold with half-cooked meals. Sometimes the past doesn't whisper. It ends mid-sentence. Your child draws a figure in the dirt again. A person with their arms stretched wide, a circle at their feet. "This one is you," they say. You make the fire stay. You swallow something thick in your throat. The next day, the visitors return. No spears this time, just smiles and dried meat and glances that hang too long. You take the meat, say nothing. You count the exits. They sit, they talk. They offer a story about a mammoth hunt, about how they cornered the beast near a ravine and watched it fall. You imagine them telling the same story about you. But you've been carving, not in stone, in people. The girl now walks like flint held near flame. The young women know where to run. Even the children know which shadows to trust. This is no longer a cave. It's a trap. And if they spring it, you'll bite back. You send your child to fetch water. Slowly, you follow with your eyes, not your feet. One of the visitors watches them go. You meet his gaze. He looks away first. Later, as they leave, they say, "You're clever here, like a pack." You smile, not with your mouth, with your silence. That night, you sharpen everything, even the stories, even your child, even yourself. The stranger does not come back the next day, nor the next. You wait anyway, not in fear, but in position. Every routine becomes a ritual now. The water is gathered before light breaks. The meat is dried farther from the cave, away from watching eyes. The sleeping spaces are tighter, warmer, more alert. You're not hiding. You're waiting to be tested. Your child senses it too. They carry their dull knife, like a real one, tucked into the fold of their fur. They ask fewer questions, not because they're afraid, but because they understand what silence is for. You hum softly in the mornings now. The tune has no words, but it feels older than you. The girl picks it up. She hums it too, and when she does, others begin listening. The younger ones follow her now, just as they once followed you. She moves like a shadow with purpose. She shows a girl how to twist a knot that tightens when pulled. Shows a boy how to throw a stone low from the hip, not the shoulder. She's not you, but she's yours. Historians still debate the presence of leadership hierarchies in Ice Age clans, but you've never needed titles. You know power when it moves. There's a restlessness in the men now. The food has grown scarcer, the wind more bitter. One of them mutters about women getting too loud, too visible. You hear it, you don't respond. That evening, one of the children goes missing. A boy, just old enough to walk alone. Gone by the stream. Someone blames the girl, says she should have been watching. He raises his voice, his arm. You step in before he finishes. You don't shout. You don't cry. You say, "Try that again." Not loud, just clear. He sees your knife, not drawn, just present. The cave goes quiet. He lowers his hand, walks away. The boy returns later, cold, but fine. He had followed a rabbit, got lost. No one apologizes, but the girl looks at you like she's memorizing that moment. You've taught her what it means to hold the line. You've also taught her what it costs. That night the fire burns low and the stars reappear. You tell a story, not to the children this time, but to the women. It's about a cave where the walls listened, where the women carved rules into stone, not just stories, where they lived not to obey, but to outlast. The girl asks, "Did they win?" You say, "They survived." She nods like that's better. A quirky fact, some Ice Age figures etched into stone show women dancing in circles, arms linked. Ritual, celebration, resistance. You imagine them moving, not for joy, but for unity. One body with many legs, one heartbeat under many skins. The next morning, you take the girl with you to the ridge, not for escape, for a gift. There's a place beyond the trees, where red berries grow early. You show her which ones to pick, how to feel the branch before snapping it, how to taste the sour without choking. She grins, juice on her lips. You sit together in the grass, the cave hidden behind you, the sky wide above. She says, "Sometimes I forget what fear tastes like." You smile. That means you're growing. A wind moves through the trees, low and slow. You both look toward it. Then you rise and walk back, not hurried, not tense, just steady. She carries the berries, you carry the memory. The men notice, again, but do not stop you. Your child runs to meet you. Did you bring me something? You hand them a single berry. They suck it carefully, like it's a secret. Later, the girl tells the younger ones her own story, not yours, hers. It's about a girl with a knife who never flinched. They listen, wide-eyed, wrapped in furs, curled in each other's warmth. She doesn't need your voice anymore. And that, strangely, is your reward. One of the older men coughs up blood that night. You know what that means. He does too. No one mourns early, but the fire dims for a reason. You sit beside it, sharpening your knife one final time, not for battle, but for belief, because every edge reminds you you are not prey. The girl finishes her story with the words, and that's how she knew she'd never be hunted again. The cave stays silent, but the fire pops like applause. The cave is quieter now, but not empty. Your child wakes earlier, speaks softer, listens more. They help you with the fire. They carve patterns into the sides of sticks and say, "This one is for luck." You nod. You don't tell them there's no such thing as luck. You want them to believe in something gentle for a little longer. The girl no longer needs to be told when to speak or when to act. She steps in without waiting. When a boy throws a stone too close to a smaller child, she pulls him aside, not to punish, but to teach. Her voice is firm. Her hand doesn't shake. You've seen her gather herbs without asking, distribute meat with quiet authority. She walks like the fire belongs to her now. And maybe it does. The older men give her space, not because they agree, but because they've learned. The new ones, the boys just becoming men, watch her with a different kind of hunger, not for her body, but for something else. Her steadiness, her certainty. They don't know what it is yet, but they want it. She guards it well. You sit in the corner sometimes and just watch, the girl moving like rhythm, the younger women following like notes. Even the children, laughing more freely now, seem to orbit around something solid. It's not you anymore. And that's how you know you've done it right. Historians still debate how memory worked before writing, how stories and skills survived across winters, across generations. Some say it was song, some say it was fire. You say it was her. You place your knife deeper into your pouch, not because you won't use it, but because you don't need to show it anymore. One night your child curls into you whispering, "I want to be like her." You say, "Then watch her, and remember." They fall asleep with their arm across your ribs. You lie awake, listening to the wind outside, remembering the way your own mother breathed. You wonder if she once watched you like this, if she ever got to rest. The girl finds you the next morning, near the stream. She hands you something, a stone, smooth and round, painted with ash, a circle carved into its face. You ask what's it for. She says it's a mark, for the next one. You nod, you take it, you press your thumb into the circle until the ash rubs into your skin. Back at the cave, someone started drawing again, on the walls this time, crude figures, tall ones and small ones, a line of them holding hands. No spears, no prey, just each other. You don't ask who drew it, you just sit nearby, while your child adds another figure to the end. They say this one is you. You say, "It looks stronger than me." They smile. It is. A quirky fact, a recently discovered cave in France shows overlapping hands in ochre, some too small to be adult, some pressed right over the older ones, layered like generations, like echoes. You dream that night of a girl walking into the woods alone. Not the past you, not the girl you taught, a future one. She carries no knife, she carries no fear, just a pouch full of berries and a story so loud that even the snow listens. You wake without sadness. The cave is awake too, already bustling. Someone sharpens bone, someone ties furs. The girl sings a low note while drying meat. Your child runs past, shouting something you can't quite hear. You close your eyes for a moment and feel something strange. Not relief, not pride, but peace. Because for the first time in your life, you are no longer the fire. You are the ember they carry forward. The mornings come slower now. You no longer rise in a panic, no longer wake with your hand already reaching for a weapon. Instead you blink into the soft light creeping through the cave mouth and feel the ache in your joints, like an old friend greeting you, a reminder you've lasted. Your child is growing fast. Their cheeks are leaner, their steps longer. They eat more, ask more. Yesterday they helped the girl dress a deer elbow deep in warmth and blood, not blinking once. They smiled afterward like it made them older. It did. They sit beside you now, chewing roots, carving a piece of bone. You ask what they're making. They say, a story. You smile, not because you understand, but because you don't have to. The girl joins you later, her hands stained with ash. She says there's another group nearby, women and children mostly. One of the scouts saw them, half-starved, moving slow through the trees. You nod. You say we'll leave food where they can find it. She agrees. No hesitation, no fear. The girl now walks with the kind of authority that doesn't need volume. She glances, and others follow. She gestures, and things move. She speaks, and the cave listens. She's not you, but she carries you. Every bruise you bore, every line you etched, every whisper you passed like a hot coal in the dark. She carries them now, and still the world presses in. One of the men falls sick, fever, shaking. You've seen it before. You boil herbs. The girl sits with him, cloth pressed to his head, not because he deserves it, because she refuses to become what tried to break her. There's power in that. Your child brings you a feather today, brown, long, striped. It fell right in front of me, they say, like it chose me. You place it in their hair and say, maybe it did. You remember the first one they ever found, when they were just learning to walk. Blue, small. They called it magic. Maybe they were right. A quirky fact. Some graves from 20,000 years ago contain feathers, beads, and red ochre, placed carefully around the head and hands. Not decoration, something else. Something whispered, then buried. You watch the girl teach others how to set traps. Not big ones, small ones, for rabbits, birds, lessons in patience. You see the children copy her rhythm, even her stance. One falls into the snow, trying to imitate her crouch. Everyone laughs. Even you. You haven't laughed in days. It surprises you how light it feels. You tell your child a new story that night. Your last story, maybe, about a woman who never had a name, but who held a fire so long and so quietly, no one noticed until they were all warm. You say, she never left the cave, but the cave grew around her. Your child asks, was she real? You say, she's sitting right here. They crawl into your arms and fall asleep without another word. That night, you stare into the fire and remember every bruise, every step, every name not spoken. You remember your mother, the old woman who once gave you moss, the first blood between your legs, the birth in the dark, the stone you threw, the mark you made, and you think, let them find my bones one day. Let them guess who I was. Let them try to name me, because they'll never know your stories. But your stories will live. The fire pops, the wind sighs, and the cave, as always, forgets everything except the warmth. And now the fire dims. The last embers glow soft and red, like the eyes of something half asleep and ancient. You lie back against the stone and feel the warmth on your cheek. The air is quiet. Even the wind outside has stopped howling. Your bones are tired, but not heavy. You've done enough. You've carried the weight no one could name. You've spoken the words no one dared say out loud. And more than anything, you've lasted. In a world that cracked bones for warmth, you stayed whole enough to build shelter around others. The child, your child, breathes beside you now, slow and deep. Their face is peaceful. You reach out, run your fingers once through their hair, and let your hand rest. The girl, grown into something fierce and full, sleeps not far from the fire. Her knife is beside her, her shoulders loose. She knows she's not alone anymore. The stories are still here, etched into stone, etched into memory, etched into the silence between heartbeats. You close your eyes now and picture the cave in sunlight. Children laughing, meat sizzling over fire, ash underfoot. The sounds of life, not survival, life. And if someone finds your bones one day, cracked and scattered, they won't see the fire you held, but maybe, just maybe, they'll feel the warmth of its smoke. So rest now, cave mother, flame holder, story giver. The cold can't reach you here. Sleep